How do you start one of these fucking things?
Need for Speed Heat is one of the games ever. Now, I'm no sim racer, but I do enjoy a good racing game. Back in 2019, when Heat first came out, people said it was, well, shit. So I didn't bother buying it. I also had Forza Horizon 4 on my hands at the time, so why would I swap out the current king of open world racing games for something that's shit? Now, I have some experience with the Need for Speed franchise. I've played Carbon, Hot Pursuit 2, and Payback. Certainly not all of them, but I've seen the past glory of the franchise, and I know enough to say that the newer games aren't that great compared to the glory days. But what about Heat then? Is it as bad as people say? I don't think so. But does that make it good then? Well, not necessarily. Coming off my experience with Payback, I had some vague idea of what the game would be like. The overall feel of the cars and driving felt like what I was expecting. Pure arcadey, drifting every corner. What you expect to get from an arcade racer. Cars themselves feel good. Like I said, the handling is more or less what you expect it to be. It's easy to get into and you don't really have to think about it that much to have fun with it. The cars look good. The customization in terms of variety and quality is, as always, great. Of course, this varies from car to car, but the cars you'll probably be wanting to customize have plenty of choice. The livery editor is still finicky because it seems the concept of where the car's fucking center is still eludes game devs. And why is there still no option to overlay something over the whole car and not these fucking zones? There aren't a lot of cars in the game, but there's a good bunch, and that bunch, I would say, contains most of what you'd want. From too loud for any comments that. What I didn't know was that they had ditched the god-awful gambling upgrade system from Payback, which was a massive problem in that game. Heat returned to the more expensive part equals more better formula, which for an arcade racer works perfectly fine. In fact, it's basically ideal. But the more refreshing part of this was the way they had handled progression in unlocking these parts. The way the system works in Heat is you have day races and night races. Day races are your standard run-of-the-mill racing, it's legal, it's not particularly exciting, and it's how you make money in the game. For some reason they decided that every daytime race has to be a circuit race, which I guess goes along with the narrative of being legal, but ultimately makes them repetitive and fucking annoying to do. Well, you can't just grind the daytime races and buy the most expensive parts right away, oh no. In order to unlock better parts and cars, you need to do night races. They're legal, exciting, and standard for the series ever since they realized that running away from the cops is fun. The way these usually go is you go to a place, you race from point A to B, or occasionally on a circuit, and get rep based on where you finished. But in order to get more reps, you need to raise your heat level, which essentially functions like a multiplier for rep, while also doubling as a metric for how likely you are to get fucked over by the bullshit cops in this game. Now, gaining heat is fairly simple. You piss off the cops while racing or simply cheesing the fuck out of their AI. Getting heat is easy, not getting utterly murdered by the cops is hard. Especially in the early game. In order to gain all of your rep, you need to make it back to a safe house without getting shafted by the police, otherwise you lose all of your heat multiplier and gain basically no rep. Further on into the game, you get access to high heat races, of which there are two tiers. One that unlocks at heat level 3 and another at 5. You can do both once per night. Doing well in these grants you access to the best parts in the game. The trick is, you can't just buy these, you need to get back to your safe house with the part in order to actually get it and unlock it for future buying. You also can't equip them until you get max rep level, which seems a little nonsensical because you already have the part, where's the problem? But then again, max rep level isn't too hard to achieve either. What is hard, however, is the fact that high heat races have increased cop activity, i.e. you're more likely to get fucked, or at least that's how it should work. Usually, the high heat races turn out like this. First, you must pick a steed for your totally law-abiding night drive. I'll pick the funny spinny Dorito machine for this particular occasion. Having picked a car, you get your heat level up to 3, line up to the starting line and get ready for a thrilling experience. All of the AI blasts past you at the start to make up for their lack of competence. You fly past everyone in the first 10% of the race, perform a couple of
well-executed handbrakes,
dodge some cops with cloaking devices, murder a family of 4, and congratulations, you now have access to a brand spanking new shiny part. But you want more. Problem is, you need Heat 5 to do a super scary high heat race, so you partake in some more tomfoolery, which means cheesing the fuck out of the cops. And I mean really cheesing. So you're now at Heat 5, ready to start the race of your life. Yet again, all of the other cars out-accelerate you, but then proceed to crash into each other because God forbid we program a competent racing AI. And remember, if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racer, or whatever Senna said. Pull off a well-executed handbrake turn into P1, motor of family of 4, and you're now cruising home to victory, until all of a sudden, oh no, immovable force.png. No worries, in good sportsmanship you're competitive, gives you a little helping hand, and you're back in the fight. You hustle your way up to P2, and proceed to watch in horror as a rhino drives straight through the car in P1 in fair review. Luckily for you, he left his cloaking device on and can't hit you. Murder another family of 4. Watch as another fucking rhino ignores the car in P1 and goes straight for you. This time they learned and turned their cloaking device off, hitting you head on. No worries, glorious Nippon steel can't be harmed by some dingy little van. P2's fine, it's alright. Car decides it's drifting time, 7th place, fuck. Well, bad luck next time. As you can see, the cops in this game are interesting, to say the least. Especially those damn Corvettes. No matter how fast you're going, they always seem to be able to catch up. You could be driving like a fucking land speed record turbojet car, and the damn thing would still catch you and proceed to punch you off the road with some kind of force of mythical proportions. Luckily, they got rid of that brain-dead kill switch ability they had in Payback. Though I did see them try to use it a few times, but I don't think it ever actually did anything. The rhinos are, well, there. They sometimes crash into you, I guess. And the way they only target you like you were John Wick himself just feels off. Aren't all of these other cars also at a theoretical heat level 5? Shouldn't the cops focus on stopping the slower cars they can catch first? It all just feels fake, and aside from the adrenaline rush of being chased by like 15 fucking cop cars every now and then, it just feels like a shallow experience. Speaking of shallow and fake, the same goes for the environments in this game. Like, why are there so many cars on these small ass country roads and zero traffic in the big city? I mean, it's Miami for fuck's sake. It just doesn't make sense. I get that it's there for the challenge and all, but once you notice it, you can't unsee it, and it gets more and more jarring every time you see a fucking traffic jam or some dirt road in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. I mean, look at Forza Horizon's main big cities. They at the very least feel like real cities because there's more traffic there. Heat's main city feels empty, deserted, and sometimes honestly just eerie. The progression in terms of upgrades feels good, but the story progression and story in general is just horrendous. It has an interesting premise, but it just ends super abruptly. While you obviously don't play a Need for Speed game for the story, it does help if it's, some manner of engaging. It also ends super early and honestly quite unpredictably. They even set up what looks like the next villain in the story, and it honestly feels like you were supposed to fight against them as well. But maybe time just got short in the development and they couldn't finish it. I guess we're lucky we got this game in 2019, as nowadays selling a product with all of its unfinished features included at full price doesn't seem to bother EA very much. Another gripe I have with the story is how they just don't do cool cover cars anymore. Like the final mission. Skip this part if you don't want spoilers, but I mean, the story is shit, so I don't think you care very much. You track down Mercer in his little operation, and he gets away in the M3 GTR. The Need for Speed car. While it is undeniably a cool fucking car, I can't help but get the feeling that they just sort of milk that car because of the nostalgia that people have for it. Instead of creating new, memorable cars for the series, they rely on cars that made the past great, which is just backwards thinking. The rewards for side missions are also cover cars from the past games, like the GTR from Underground and 350Z from Underground 2. Good motivation for shallow content. Clever. I mean, look at the cover car from Heat itself. This absolutely mental looking Polestar, which you do get to drive at the start, but do you think you get it at the end of the game? Fuck no. That's when you unlock it. You gotta dish out 1.3 million in-game to get it. There's no attachment, no story, no nothing aside from the cool looks of this car. What kind of logic's that? In terms of general progression, it just doesn't make a lot of sense with all the event types. In Payback, you had story motivations to go to the different parts of the map in order to beat the different crews in their respective disciplines. It forced you to see all that the game had to offer. In Heat, it almost feels like most of the environment is wasted. While it is quite varied, you don't see a lot of it and you don't even have to do any of the different racing types. Like, look at this cool underground train track. I would have never even known this existed had I not done this one off-road race. Which is a shame because I really like how the off-roading feels in this game. I feel like they've got that down really well, so I wish they'd given that a bit more of a focus like they did with Payback. Funny how they get it down but don't focus on it, and then other games like Horizon have abysmal cross-country but can't seem to stop pushing it. While I don't think Need for Speed should make a rally game or something like that, there are still things they did well that I think they missed the opportunity to capitalize on. Something I don't like, however, is the drifting in this game. Holy fuck, does this feel horrible. The drifting in Payback felt great, challenging at first, but once you got the hang of it, man did it feel good. The same can't be said for Heat, which is a shame. I still can't quite get the hang of it or even understand how it's supposed to work really. For one, you can't really drift until you get the top tier drift upgrades because you just can't maintain it. More importantly, drifting with non-drift parts doesn't get you a good score, which is absolutely nonsensical because to me these look like properly good drifts. Getting the 3-star score in drift events also doesn't need you to be competent. You can literally just fishtail the whole thing, which doesn't feel good, and more importantly, doesn't look cool. I think that's because they realized the drifting physics sucked balls and didn't bother fixing it, so they just made all of the events really easy to pass. The car seems to have two different driving modes, normal and drifting, which you need to switch between. It makes doing weight transfers and overall just pivoting the car to transition between corners impossible. Because you go into the driving mode for a second, which makes it straighten out, and then only after a while does it start going the other way again. It's almost like there's an invisible wall in the way. And then you have the polar opposite, where you want to straighten out, but the car just won't let you for some reason. It's just extremely difficult to understand, and I don't get why they'd ruin their pretty decent system from Payback. If I had to guess, it's because of how the upgrading system works. Now your car isn't built for a specific event type anymore, but rather how it handles is based off of the upgrades on it. Which does mean you can respec your car for whatever you want, whenever you want, but also why the drifting in this game feels so off, as the car tries to decide whether it should be in drift mode or driving mode, rather than just be stuck in drift mode. Despite this, when you rarely get the drifting system to work, man does it feel good. But mostly it just sucks. Also, some other parts of the physics are super weird. They've given your car stupid amounts of wheel spin for the cool factor, and this means you accelerate pretty slowly. They forgot to do that for reverse though, so you can accelerate a lot quicker in reverse, and you also have more traction for some reason. Another problem with this game is the damn photo mode. This isn't really a big problem or anything, it's mostly just a me problem. It doesn't impact the main game, but goddamn how hard is it to make a good fucking photo mode? I like video game photography, especially in racing games. I mean, look at Horizon 5's photo mode, it's gorgeous. Take this picture I took of this Aston for example. It was raining at the time, so there's these little rain droplets on the lens, but they're small, and even if you do notice them, they don't take anything away from it. Now, it rains a lot in here, and I mean a fucking lot. You can't go 5 minutes without a monsoon, which I guess is faithful to the Miami setting, but man, they did not account for the photo mode. Remember the small droplets from before? This is what happens to them in Heat. Do you see how that might be a problem when your game has rain all the time? Even when it doesn't rain, it just doesn't produce stellar results, but I still managed to get a few good shots. All of these things combined make for a game that's okay. It's not terrible, but it's also not great. But if I'm being honest, if you want an arcade racer, then this one's just fine. I had some fun with it. Just don't expect anything too great from it, and I definitely would not recommend buying it at full price, as it's just not worth it. Especially because the new game's coming out. If you're willing to dish out full price on a racing game, then go with one of the Horizon games. It's not as arcadey, but overall it's just a much better package, even if they have stagnated badly lately. And therein lies the problem. Forza Horizon is still the king of accessible racing games, and Forza Horizon 5 is fun, but honestly boring. And that's because they can afford it. The series has stagnated as their competition falters. They don't have to make stellar games, even if the potential is there in the concept of Horizon. They have no competition. I mean, sure, you've got The Crew 2, but let's be honest, that game's not getting anywhere near Horizon anytime soon. Which just leaves Need for Speed, the racing game series that was once king, now reduced to Rain Simulator. The games have been great in the past, the potential is still very much there, and I don't think they're very far off actually. Despite all the negatives, these aren't hard problems to solve. As it seems they're trying to give the series a new style with Unbound, and maybe they've finally done it. Maybe they've made a game that's amazing. But time will have to tell. At least the characters look good. They've got that ace, I guess. I mean, good-looking characters seem to be the fucking kryptonite of racing games. I mean, look at these.